Hello, I'm Simpson, and this is the video presentation for the game I've made for DES105 programming module, and I'll just jump into it and show you. This is the main menu with a graphic and two buttons. All the graphics used in the menus, I've tried to use copyright-free ones online. I'll just go into the actual game now. So the game is you play as a getaway driver, getting away from a bank robbery, and the objective is to collect as many money bags as you can while dodging the police barricades and obstacles. When you crash, a sound effect is played and graphic is shown, and it has the two options of retrying or quitting. I'm going to retry so I can show you the finish line. There are 15 money bags in total. This is the finish line menu, and it has a different graphic and has the two buttons of replay or quit. I'm going to go into the code now. Okay, so this is my code, and firstly in the start function I am assigning the values of the component rigid body of the vehicle the player plays as to the variable myRigidBody, and the reason I'm doing this is so that I can then manipulate those values in a way that allows for movement in the game, whether it's left or right or keep going forward. To keep going forward I'm using velocity as opposed to force. The reason is because I want to keep it a constant as opposed to a gradual build up, getting faster and faster. I didn't want that, I just wanted consistent forward speed, and in this case it's forward speed, which is public variable. The reason it's public is so that I can change it in the engine also, instead of having to constantly switch between them to alter it and find the right value. What it does is it dot velocity new vector 3, it makes the z value, z 3D axis value, sets it to the forward speed. The next thing is move horizontally, which is being called, and it's down here. What it does is it determines if the user has inputted the left or right key. It does this by, when they click say left, then it will get a value of -1, and if they've clicked right, then it will get a value of just +1, and then that value will be stored in the left or right variable. Then after that, the rigid body is having a force added to it, and this force is the left or right value times the horizontal speed, which is the same as forward speed in terms of it's a public variable for easy changing while in development. The way the left or right works is that this overall value on the x-axis, if they've gone left, it'll be -1, which will make the overall value negative, and so they'll move left. And if it's positive, if they move right, then it'll be 1 times something, and that'll be positive, so they'll move right on the x-axis. And that's everything for move horizontally. The next one being called here is change score, which I'll get to at the end. Next I'll talk about the on collision enter, which has an if statement in it, and what it basically does is once you collide with an object, it will check if the object's tag is obstacle, and if it is, then it will use the scene manager to load the replay menu, which is this scene that has retry or quit and different sounds for crashing, basically. And that's all the collision does. And next is on trigger enter, which is very similar to the on collision. It's got the trigger thing. It's got is trigger ticked in the component window of the object, and it's got two if statements. The first one is doing the same as up here. It's checking the tag of the object, and here if it's money bag, then it is making the score equal to score plus 1, and it's also playing a audio clip, the money sound audio clip, at the position of my rigid body, which is the player's position, so it'll make sure that they hear it. The other if statement is one that checks if the object they've collided or triggered is the finish line, and if it is, then it will load the finish line scene. The next function is the change score, which is the one that's in fixed update, and basically what it does is it changes the text in the upper right to score.toString, and .toString, it converts the float value of score to a string value, and because you can't have float values in text. The reason I have put the move horizontally, for example, in fixed update as opposed to update is I want it to constantly be checking for the player's input to keep it feeling smooth and responsive, as opposed to only doing it once every frame, which might sometimes not be as smooth as if it's checking more than once every frame. And that's everything on this script. The next script is a menu script, and I'm using it on all my menus. I just used the same one script, which has the simple click to play or click to quit. And if you've clicked play, the play button, then it'll load the scene level 1. And if you've clicked quit, then it will just quit the application, it'll close it down. And that's all in the menu script. This is the third and final script. It's the camera controller, and basically what it does is it gets an offset value, which is the difference in position between the camera and the player, and it does that by the camera position negative the player position, and it will return a value, the difference between the two. And then down here in late update, it is making the position of the camera the position of the player plus that offset that's been calculated. And the reason it is in late update is so that it is doing this at the end of each update cycle, so that it's doing it at the end of all the other movement, as opposed to maybe lagging behind. If say it was done at the start, then it wouldn't be as smooth or consistent as doing it just at the end after all other movement has been processed, so that the camera sticks permanently in that kind of position. And that is all the scripts that I have on this game. Thank you for watching this video.